Hey, Mr. Caraway. This is Trevor Warren, and I'm going to be presenting to you a case called Bagley versus Mount Bachelor for the Accounting 508 case that we had to do for the semester. So why don't we go ahead and get started? This is an interesting case that actually talks about exculpatory clauses that we learned in class. So the plaintiff, Miles Bagley, is an 18-year-old snowboarder from Oregon that was snowboarding out on Mount Bachelor, and he actually went off one of these jumps with his snowboard and became paralyzed as he fell. So Miles Bagley, the plaintiff, is suing Mount Bachelor for damages as a result of becoming paralyzed after going off this jump. So why don't we get into some more details of the case? So back in September of 2005, Miles Bagley purchased a season pass for Mount Bachelor. And Mount Bachelor is a pretty large ski resort. Let me give you some statistics. It has about 4,300 skiable acres. The highest peak is over 9,000 feet, and over 101 ski runs, and over 500 inches of annual snow. So this is a pretty big ski resort that has multiple different sides of the mountain, and there's actually terrain parks within this. And that was where Miles Bagley actually got injured, was off one of these jumps going through the terrain park. So as I mentioned, our plaintiff Miles Bagley actually purchased a season pass for the season of 2005 and 2006. And this is actually the third year in a row that he purchased a ski pass. So needless to say, he was pretty much a regular at the ski resort, and the statistics show that he used his pass over 119 times to go up the lifts at the resort in the first 26 days that the ski lifts were open. So needless to say, he was not only a regular at the ski resort, he was also an experienced skier, which might play into fact a little bit later when we're discussing some of the legal liability with this exculpatory clause. So let me actually read to you what Mount Bachelor has printed on the back of the season pass. And all of the individuals that purchase season passes are encouraged to read what this disclaimer says. So I'll read this to you. In consideration for each lift ride, the ticket user releases and agrees to hold harmless and indemnify Mount Bachelor Inc. and its employees and agents from all claims for property damage, injury, or death, even if caused by negligence. The only claims not released are those based upon intentional misconduct. So this was printed on the back of the season pass and basically says that anybody that's skiing or snowboarding on the slopes cannot sue Mount Bachelor for any damages caused. And so whenever they sign up for a season pass, they also have to agree to this disclaimer. And this reads, presentation of this ticket to gain access to the premises and facilities of this area is an acknowledgement of your agreement to the terms and conditions outlined above. So these two disclaimers were a blanket statement that went out to every single person that either bought a season pass or an individual ticket. And if they sold a season pass to somebody else, they also had to agree to all of these items and terms. So within 2 years after Miles Bagley was injured, he brought this to action, and his complaint alleged negligence on defendant's part in designing, constructing, maintaining, and inspecting the jump that ultimately left him paralyzed. So at this point, the court had to determine whether this exculpatory clause was unconscionable. And ultimately, the court ruled that this was indeed unconscionable. And if you notice when I read the disclaimer before, that blanket waiver was attempted to eliminate any kind of liability and all liability from Mount Bachelor for any kind of damages that occurred on the mountain. And so this is ultimately what the court ruled, is that they cannot release themselves from all liability, and especially negligence. So just to kind of give some analysis of this exculpatory clause, my example that I always use when I discuss exculpatory clauses is the example of the dry cleaners. So whenever you go to a dry cleaners and you get a receipt, normally on the back it'll say that they're not responsible for any kind of damages of the goods that they are performing their services on. So while the clause set by Mount Bachelor is essentially an exculpatory clause, it is, I agree, a little bit excessive by saying that they are not